I'm looking at Cincinnati Reds. I love watching them. I'm not one of the people just because it's, they're not going to last. Listen, who knows if they're going to last, but I'm not dismissing them. In other words, you haven't heard me say, listen, I'm telling you people, they're not going to last. I'm not doing that. Of course things could unravel because it's always tenuous in the NL Central. And even though the Reds have a really good bullpen, the people don't seem to be able to pay attention to the fact that that's a reality. The starting rotation leaves them a little vulnerable. You wonder about veteran pitchers in this league, any pitchers in this league. The more that the young, really terrific position players, the more at-bats they take for the Reds, you wonder when the proverbial book will be written about how you get these guys out, attack their weaknesses. So they got a lot to prove, but they got less to prove than the Cardinals do, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, the thing that I really like this part that I'm going to tell you about as we, again, turn our attention to the second half of the season. Because the Reds are just the kind of one of the top sensations of the season. The first half, our friend C. Trent Rosecrans wrote a really good piece about it in The Athletic. I skimmed through it, going to read it later tonight. Just about the dynamic team that they are, and all the attention they're getting, and how entertaining it is, and how they have put the life back into Cincinnati baseball, which has always been actually a historically prominent baseball town, but it's just it's also been saddled by really bad owners. Success has been fleeting since the Big Red Machine days and back in the glory days. So I don't hold that against Cincinnati when the people there are just given years and years and years and years and years of mostly mediocre or poor baseball. Anyway, listen to the schedule the Reds have to play coming out of the break. I'm just going to read it without commentary. All right, starting tomorrow, they have a home series, 3 games against the Brewers. Then the Giants come into Cincinnati for 4 games. Then Arizona comes in for 3 games. Then Cincinnati hits the road. They've got 3 at Milwaukee. They've got 3 at Dodger Stadium. They've got 4 at Wrigley Field. So that's the stretch they will have starting tomorrow and running through Thursday, August the 3rd. Ooh. That's a lot of good teams, man. And it's not like the Cubs are a powerhouse, but they're a good team. They got good starting pitching. Offense comes and goes. That's the problem. That's a tough bit of terrain right there. So this will be the Reds' biggest test of their season to date. What are they going to do between now and the evening of August the 3rd when this stretch against Milwaukee, San Francisco, Arizona, Milwaukee again, the Los Angeles Dodgers, Chicago Cubs? What are they going to do between Friday night and Thursday, August 3rd? I'm really looking forward to finding out. We're going to learn more about them.
I'm going to have to tune in a little bit more. I've been watching them a little bit more recently, but now, knowing that they're going to play good opponents, this definitely shows me more. I want to see if some of those young arms can start getting guys out a little bit more. And as you stated, can those bats continue to roll through like they are? They're going to have to start making adjustments because some of these better pitching staffs are going to adjust to them. And how do they deal with that? It's going to be fun. I know that because they are a fun, interesting bunch to watch. I know Graham Ashcraft has had 2 good starts his last 2 times out, and I know they put a lot of faith in him being a good pitcher for them years to come, but maybe he's figured some things out since he's gone through his early struggles. So I like the note you got there on the Reds. They're going to be fun. De La Cruz, what he did the other day, Bernie, that was unreal.
Yeah. That was one of the best things I've seen in a long time on a baseball field.
It was awesome. And then he caught the Brewers sleeping, but still, that's superstar type stuff there that makes that happen. That's just not some fly-by-night rookie who shows up. He is definitely an unbelievable talent to watch night in and night out, doing something different every time.
And the Brewers got some challenges ahead. They resume the we already mentioned the Brewers go to Cincinnati for 3 this weekend. Then they move on to Philadelphia for 3. And Philly's definitely playing better. Mm-hmm. Then the Brewers return home for 3 against Atlanta and 3 against Cincinnati. And then they hit the road for 3 in Atlanta. So, once you lay out the Brewer schedule and the Red schedule, if there's any chance at all, the Cardinals can at least announce themselves as a team that's going to start clawing away at that deficit and closing some ground, where you might have all the other teams in the NL Central kind of looking over their shoulder just a little bit. I mean, this is the opportunity because the two teams that have proven to be the best in the division, they're coming out for the second half, and they've got really tough opening schedules. So make your move, fellas. I mean, seriously. Ali Marmol and, some of the players, and they I don't know how to characterize it because, look, I want them to be enthusiastic. I want them to be motivated, and I wanted to see them fired up. But sometimes there's a little bit of, like, they take offense to this idea that they're out of the race. Ali with, I know people on the outside say this, but I always that's one of my things I hate. Don't worry about the outside. Worry about the inside. Worry about winning games. Because if you all would take care of your business, no one would be saying that you're out of it. So why in the hell would you take exception to that? You're the ones that are 14 games under 500. Wasn't the St. Louis media or the great fans, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So here's your chance, and let me do this too, since we're on this. And it's funny how I mentioned the other teams first, but I actually didn't have this plan because I was just looking at the Cincinnati schedule earlier today, and I'm like, oh, got to remember to talk about that. Okay, your St. Louis Cardinals. All right, they're going to theoretically have an opportunity to at least wake everybody else up, but most of all, wake themselves up. So they got the Nationals at home for 3. Miami comes in for 3. Cardinals go to Wrigley Field for 4. They go to Arizona for 3. Then the Cubs come in here for 4. And then the Cardinals play 3 at home against Minnesota. I tell you what, that's through August the 3rd. That's that same time frame that I mentioned with Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. They're scheduled through August 3rd. I don't. This might sound crazy. I don't even consider the Nationals a patsy. They've got some players that can hurt you if you're not doing your job. We know how good Miami is. We know that anytime you play the Cubs, that's going to be a fight. And the Cubs got better starting pitching than you, and I think right now their bullpen's better than you. And we know Arizona is having a hell of a season. Minnesota. We'll do a scouting thing on them when we get closer to it, but Minnesota's a contending team. It's a weak division, but they're a contending team. So Cardinals have a lot to prove, and this is not exactly an easy upcoming schedule. I don't think it is. Especially when you got 8 games against your rivals.
Yeah, the Cubs are just that's always a handful.
So go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
No, you're right about the Cubs. Arizona teams, I know they slowed down because of a few injuries. They're just good. They're a good baseball team. They'll be a handful at their place. Miami took 3 or 4 against the Cardinals last week, so don't forget about that. And they're in a wild card spot. They're second in the division. They're actually the fact that they're even. I know Atlanta's out front, but the fact that they're even that close to Atlanta tells you how good Miami's baseball team can be. So, my goodness, it's a tough get. You got to beat Washington. Like you said, they're not a pushover, but you got to beat them. But my goodness, Texter says they're going to have to scratch and claw. Quoting
scratch and claw.
Mike Shildt a little bit.
That's right. Oh, my gosh. How many times did he say that as Cardinals manager? He wore that thing out, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Scratch and claw.
Another text on our subject here says, hey, Bernie, wouldn't it be great to see a Reds-Orioles World Series? Won't happen, but it'd be awesome.
1970, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Went to one of those games with my daddy. Saw Dave McNally, a pitcher, hit a grand slam home run.
Oh, wow. That's right. He did hit a home run.
Yeah. It was a weekday afternoon game.
Oh, that's
beautiful
golden.
day at the lovely now defunct Memorial Stadium. So yeah, that was the Brooks Robinson series. That was one of the best performances, and I'm not just saying this.
No, it
was.
was.
Best performances by a single player in a World Series. He made 7 or 8. Can you believe that? Plays.
Yes.
Show why he was, at that time, the greatest third baseman defensively. There's competition, but Brooks Robinson was pretty damn amazing. And that was his showcase. And he also hit extremely well in that series, too. So the Orioles, that was a fantastic Cincinnati team. And the Orioles took them apart and won that thing in 5 games. So, yeah, let's go. I'll take a rematch. That'd be a fun series. Because there are so many fun teams in baseball. We're all kind of stuck in a rare season of misery. I know in the past, people, have been, posturing and posing as if like, oh, this is baseball hell,
Right.
It's like, relax. It's not, it's okay. You can be frustrated, but it's okay. Things will get better. They'll still have a shot to be in the playoffs, maybe do something. That's not exactly hell on earth. Now it really is miserable, and it's one of the things I'm intrigued by. And by the way, fans are entitled to think what they want. I just like to have some perspective, though, when you're trying to depict before this season. But in recent years, the Cardinals as like the Pirates that were lost in space for decades. Same with the Orioles, the Royals, and all. I mean, we can name a bunch of teams. Mm-hmm. It's like no. This is not baseball hell. It's just not. Have a little perspective. Even though if you want to be disappointed, yeah, you don't like the manager, yeah, fine. You wish John Mozeliak did this or didn't do some of the things he's done, yeah. But nobody's a victim here. No one has been sentenced to federal prison. It's just, I'm talking about recent seasons. I'm not talking about this season, although to my knowledge, no one's been sent away to prison because the Cardinals are bad either. But you never know, I guess, right?
Yeah.
You just never know. But maybe we'll throw this out to the tech. I really, this is a topic that now is tickled my fancy, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think Cardinals fans will handle this if it doesn't get better? Because we haven't been this way in a long, 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 long time. I mean, a really long time. You got to go back. I know 1990 was kind of ugly. I know that some of those teams Whitey Herzog had at the end weren't real appealing. And then you go into the 70s, the 1978 team sort of was like right there in terms of the record the Cardinals have now. But, the Cardinals and their fans haven't had a lot to really complain about. You can complain about, they shouldn't have lost this game because of this. That's totally cool, man. It's baseball talk. But this thing, like, you're, so all of a sudden you think, like, you got the worst owner in baseball and he needs to sell the team because this is hell. We shouldn't have to put up with this. I politely disagree. But this year's a different challenge because it really is bad. And it really is infuriating. And I would say the thing that angers me about it, and I would think a lot of fans would feel the same way and be in this together. This could have been avoided. It didn't have to be this way. And I was talking to a friend of mine on the East Coast, and he was teasing me, and that's okay. I like that, actually. And he was saying, "Oh, you poor people. Oh, my goodness. How are you ever survive this? Your Cardinals are having like the first bad season in like 70 years. He was exaggerating on purpose, which is what I do. Oh, my God. You're all such horrible victims. Your lives have been damaged extensively forever because they're actually bad for once. And it is kind of funny because it's a unique experience. It really is, and I wonder how people are going to handle it. I've always thought, well, would Cardinals fans have to go through, would they be willing to go through a teardown? And y'all know what a teardown is. John Mozeliak, explained that concept when he was talking to Martin Kilcoyne the other day, which is like, no, we're not going to do this thing where, we're going to lose and, you're going to like auction off all of our players and then we're going to lose. He didn't say this, but intentionally, and we wouldn't have a chance to even compete until 26 or 27. Cardinals aren't going to do that. And I don't know if fans would fancy to that. I don't know. But I'm not an advocate of blowing things up, not when you still have you have some good talent on the roster. The pitching is abysmal and it's depressing, but there's still some talent on the roster, and if they would just clean themselves up fundamentally, they'd have a lot of more wins on the board now. And if Mozeliak was doing his job, even from the standpoint where at Memphis he had a couple of major league ready starting pitchers, you say, well, we got to get that guy or this guy up there, or anybody in the bullpen that can make a huge difference. But he's just flunked his job in terms of this year and letting this happen. And, of course, Bill DeWitt, it doesn't happen unless Bill DeWitt's involved as well. So that's the thing that frustrates me. I can handle the Cardinals losing. I realize it's the cycle of sports. We've all been stuck in situations where we love a team, follow a team faithfully, religiously, whatever, and it all goes bad. I was like that as a kid. The Baltimore Colts all of a sudden were an embarrassment, and they were like a dominant franchise for a long time. And Irsay bought the team. The thing went to hell. Then they moved to Indianapolis. So you go through something like that. I think most fan bases, including Cardinals fans, just not recently, Cardinals fans had the 70s. That wasn't exactly a lot of fun.
No.
That was kind of a lost decade. So the Cardinals fans of a certain age, they've paid their penance, so to speak. I think it happens in all sports towns. I mean, look at Cleveland. They won their last championship as a sports town in 1964 when the Browns beat the Colts 27-0. And they didn't win another one until LeBron brought the Cavaliers from behind to upset the Warriors in the NBA Finals. That's a long time to not have the joy of winning,
Yes.
And at least we've had a Stanley Cup to pacify us, and that's a really big deal. But I'm not, again, y'all listen to me, please. I'm not saying you shouldn't be unhappy or upset or disappointed, angry. I'm not saying that. This is a really different type of season. And what sickens me is that it didn't have to be this way. That's what bothers me. But they thought as always, they've been in this trap. They've really been in decline, a slow decline. Just look at their postseason record. They've been in a slow decline, but they've kind of convinced themselves that, as I've said a million times, they're much better than they were. And there's a lot of chest thumping being done where they really didn't. It's not like they achieved some kind of amazing feat during the regular season. No, they took advantage of a downtime in the NL Central. They would have gotten chewed up had they played in the American League East, National League East, National League West. I mean, I could just go on. I think everyone gets my point. But they thought, we're still the Kings. Everybody stand down. So they let this happen. It didn't have to be this way. Through their complacency, and that applies to the dugout, with the collapse of the defense and the base running. In a year where base running is first time since the 80s where you can use base running as a true weapon to score runs and to disrupt the other team and to force the other team into making mistakes. If you run the bases, you steal bases, you just turn up the aggressiveness. Base stealing and just aggressive base running in general. And I mentioned yesterday, all these so-called underdog teams are doing this, and they're winning. It's just startling to me that the Cardinals, seemed oblivious to the opportunity they had. You're one of the best base running teams in baseball last season, and even the season before that. You're one of the very best at this, and then all of a sudden you decelerate, and you become cautious, conservative, you lose your aggressive, you're passive on the base paths. You're not taking advantage of the new rules and the things that really promote base running. Like, how does that happen? And I've heard, the excuse factory, got a bunch of little elves, most of them members of our media. Got a bunch of little elves in the excuse factory. Oh, here, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? Oh, here's one. Well, they couldn't steal bases and run the bases because they were getting behind in games. Oh, that's a good one, little elf. You got any more? The excuse factory. No, that's nonsense. Listen, you listen to people. Listen, I agree the first inning's been bad. Second and third haven't been good either, which actually a lot of people overlook. But the point is, do you think the Cincinnati Reds stop running when they're down in a game? No, it's the exact opposite. They're like, well, okay, I know we're down 4 runs, but, we know we can get something going and we can put ourselves in position to score runs. We can make something happen and cut into that lead. We ain't going to just stand around and hope someone hits a 3-run homer. So their whole mindset was just ridiculous. They had an opportunity to build on what they've done on the base paths, which was really exemplary last season. And, Major League Baseball put up this big invitation. Run, 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 run. You can do it. It's easier. We want you to. I don't get it. And then, you go into the season without a pitching staff that can strike people out at a rate that most of the really good teams do. And then, we don't need to worry about this defense. No, I don't need to worry about that. I just don't. So that's why I say it really, I mean this, bottom of my heart. It really, it isn't that they're losing. I can accept losing if there are legitimate, for example, I hear Mozeliak, he said it again with Marty Kilcoyne. Well, you look at our injury. No, I'm not going to look at your injuries, okay? Yeah. You had Wainwright and Jake Woodford out. Okay, come on. Right?
Yeah, the other guys just can't pitch.
The Helsley injury definitely was a factor, but let me point that didn't help them. Number one, compared to last season, he was not nearly as dominant. And number two, even when he was at full duty in your bullpen before the injury, what was your record then? Your record was bad, and you were blowing saves all over the place. So you're not allowed to use Ryan Helsley as an excuse. Outfield excuses, maybe Lars Nootbaar a little, but not to the extent that they've taken this. But yeah, Nootbaar is kind of like on the junior TO program. He's like in the apprentice program. This hurts. IL,
Yep.
Been too much of that, and I love the dude. But John Mozeliak has lost. The Cardinals, Bill DeWitt, John Mozeliak, Ali Marmol, they no longer have the right to put Tyler O'Neill on the list of excuses in terms of injuries. Well, these injuries, it disrupted our outfield. And that's because y'all still think Tyler O'Neill's going to repeat 2021 again, and Tyler O'Neill can't stay on the field long enough to even have 1 week where he looks like 2021 all over again. Dylan Carlson's a guy. He's just a guy. He's an average Major League Baseball player. He gets hurt a lot. Nootbaar gets hurt a lot. You have Jordan Walker. You didn't teach him how to play the outfield. He's a wonderful hitter. He's going to be incredible to watch as he continues to grow. But you have this gem, and you don't take the time and the care to develop his defensive skill in the outfield. And so he's part of the defensive mess out there. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse because you let that happen. O'Neill's not an excuse. You lost that a long time ago. His injuries are standard now. And you ignore the strong possibility of him going on the IL. If you ignore that in your decision-making, then you're really dumb. Dylan Carlson, you keep waiting for him to become Fred Lynn or somebody. I don't know what they're waiting for.
Fred Lynn. Yeah.
So your outfield has been this big unsolved puzzle for years. You can't use injuries or anything as an excuse with your outfield. This is the problem or the issue that never goes away. I tell you when it was great. One time, in recent years. The second half of the final 3 months, I'm going to say. Final 3 months of the 2021 season. Bader was great. O'Neill was great. Who the hell was playing left? Now I'm drawing a blank. I'm being a dummy.
Carlson.
Yeah, Carlson was
there.
Carlson was good that year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's where he got fired.
The second half was really great for him that year. That's right. Those guys, all of a sudden, they were healthy. They stayed on the field. They were clicking offensively. They're playing good defense. O'Neill and Bader were running like hell on the bases. Yeah, you saw what the Cardinals hoped it would be. But, dudes, that's only been like that for like 3 months out of how many years? Right?
Yes. It's a pipe dream. There's no doubt about it. Your texters have come in because you made reference to some really bad times and how it's not been that bad. Here's quite a few Packer fans that said, hey, hold on a minute. Even the Packers were bad in the 70s and the 80s. We had to go through that part.
No doubt.
Oh,
my goodness, absolutely.
Those were some bad times. I grew up in the early 60s in Cleveland. Now, that was bad. Bill Veeck had no money and was truly crazy.
If you're talking baseball, absolutely. But the Browns were really good. But if we're talking baseball, absolutely. That was a mess. I know the Indians had 1954, and they didn't win. And they were the Indians at the time.
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Yep,
it's okay to say that.
Yep.
Not that anybody complains on, I'll shut up, whatever. But they got to the series in 1954 and lost it. And it was kind of they're out there in the desert for a while. And I'm not talking about Arizona. They're pretty parched when it came to big games and big achievements.
Another one says, hey, I was born in 1982. So by the time I was growing up, the Cardinals are bad in the early 90s. I had to wait till 96 before they became legitimate.
Yeah, people of a certain age, and I'm not going to put the age group on it because I'll screw it up. The Cardinals made the World Series in 87. 88 was terrible. 89, they contended until late in the season, and then they lost Todd Worrell, and God rest his soul, but Dan Quisenberry by that point was a diminished closer. He was not anything close to the dominant guy he was at his peak years with the Royals. So their bullpen kind of fell apart, and there were some other things that went on. I mean, I'd have to go back and review it. But they had a chance to win that division in 89, but they fell apart late. But they were pretty good. They were a pretty good show up until then. They were a pretty good, entertaining team. There was some good stuff happening.
You're right about that. I remember they had that series in Chicago. I think it was
in September.
And
I covered that when I was there.
Dwight Smith got him one Saturday, and it was all downhill after that. And your reference to Dan Quisenberry, I can still hear Whitey because I've heard him talk about it a few times. He loved Quisenberry. He goes, yeah, we picked up Quiz, but he couldn't get anybody out anymore. That's just how he put it. He went, yeah, you're pretty accurate there.
He wanted to.
Yep.
And don't forget, that's when Anheuser-Busch was just sort of, in the deconstruction mode. By then, I'm sure they knew they were going to sell the franchise relatively soon. It didn't happen until after the 95 season, but they, when Gussie Busch died, August Busch III, had no interest in baseball. He sort of looked at it in a way. It was good marketing for the brewery, but when salaries started to go up in major league teams, he wasn't happy about that. And one of my favorite stories, Dal Maxville, and this would have been the early 90s, I guess, which was a really bad time. Maxie was a general manager. People were getting on him. I defended him from the standpoint. You talk about the expression, well, the general manager's hands were tied. Dal Maxville had no chance.
Right.
And he told me after the season, off the record, we can tell it now. It's not that big of a deal. It's nothing scandalous. They were losing relievers left and right. They were a mess. The bullpen's getting torched on a nightly basis. These were the days of Pedro Borbon Jr. and
was that Juan Augusto in that group?
Juan Augusto was in that group.
Okay.
I mean, you had. I could go on and on and on. So he had a chance, and this is the only bad thing about the story, because I can't remember the names. But he said, because I think I might have taken a shot at him saying like, oh, good job by Dal Maxville, getting bullpen help or something. Mm-hmm. Some kind of snarky thing that was probably a cheap shot.
Right.
because even I knew Anheuser-Busch wouldn't let him add any money to the payroll. So he said, listen, wise guy, he said, I had a trade done with this guy. It was a good reliever. Again, forgive me for not knowing. And we ran it by the brewery, and they said, no, it makes too much money. So then we went to another guy. We had a trade in place for another reliever. It's pretty good. Would have helped us. Called Fred Kuhlman, I guess it was. I don't know.
Todd Burns was in that group, Dave Solomon.
No, let me finish the story. Okay. You're blowing the ending.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. My bad. I screwed it.
So you had a situation that so Maxey had a second reliever lined up that was pretty good. He was excited about getting. Fred Kuhlman, no. It's too much money. And it wasn't too much money. But their standard was like anything over like, $1.80 was too much money. Then there was a third guy that they weren't as excited about, but he was still pretty decent. Might have been a good guy for platoon splits and all that stuff. No, it makes too much money. Then Maxey, a very disappointed, demoralized, disillusioned Maxey, he finally makes a deal and he gets Todd Burns.
Jeez Louise.
And so it was like this was like after getting turned down by the brewery, like definitely 3 times. And then I'm pretty sure a 4th time. He's like, what the hell? I can get Todd Burns. I'll go get Todd Burns. Right?
That's when you're just defeated before you even can make that announcement, right?
Todd 3rd-degree Burns. Nice fellow. I felt bad for him. He just couldn't pitch anymore.
Oh, man.
He got lit up, as they say.
He did. I didn't realize there was that much of a debacle within the. I knew it wasn't good, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, it was bad.
Oh,
and that's why. How do I phrase this? Whitey Herzog walked out on Anheuser-Busch because they put him in a terrible. And I know a lot of people who love Whitey are still mad at him that he resigned in the '90 season. That was another adventure. I had to get on a plane, fly to San Diego, and just
I remember.
try to scramble everything together. But anyway, Whitey was pushing for contract extensions for like Willie McGee and Vince Coleman to try to keep that group together a little while longer. There were other pending free agents. Terry Pendleton might have been.
Yeah,
I'm not
think
sure.
he was. Yeah,
and he was saying, look, we got to at least keep a couple of these guys and. The brewery kind of lead them on, made it seem like it was possible. And then in the end, it was like, no, and Whitey's managing a team where even though these are all players we really, really admire and listen, but it's tough to have a clubhouse at that point. It's like filled with guys who are in their walk year. And then they start worrying about their stats. And then they're sort of got their mind on the wrong thing. And Whitey was like, well, look, the brewery won't help. They won't lock any of these guys up. I can't look them in the face, and say, well, boys, you got to play team ball, nothing but team ball. Don't worry about your stat. He said I couldn't look at him and I couldn't look at him and stare him in the face and say that because they're feeling a lot of pressure to put up numbers. So he finally decided, things were going bad in the clubhouse. He finally decided, that's it. I've had enough. I don't need this, and off he went. But even before, and I remember, I remember a couple of months before that, Whitey had a conversation in his office. He said, this is weird in a way because it sort of applies now. Hear me out on this. He just said, you know what the damn shame is about this? Look, we had a great run. Don't get me wrong. And when Gussie was alive, we could do whatever we wanted because he wanted the team to win. But you know what the damn shame is all about this? The brewery's killing the Golden Goose. They're killing the Golden Goose. This thing, you be printing money because people love this style of ball, and we got, we can just keep going with this, and we don't have to spend a fortune, but we do have to keep some guys, and it wouldn't break the bank. And we're not even talking about going out and signing other people's free agents for a lot of money. We just want to keep the guys we have. And everything was no, not going to happen. And he just said, they're killing the Golden Goose. I don't know why they want to kill the Golden Goose, but they're strangling that SOB. And he was right. And that's why, today, that's why I'm saying, this situation now could have been avoided. Now, let me back this up. That said, that's why I don't know whether it's younger fans, I don't know. But all the stuff I see online about, Bill DeWitt's done this. And listen, man, I think Bill DeWitt's doing a bad job right now. I mean, you've heard me go off on him. His model is outdated. He's kind of living in the past, and he needs to be that proactive, aggressive owner again. But the Cardinals were in horrendous shape before he bought that team and immediately spiffed it up and immediately made it better in one off season. And it wasn't even an entire off season. Like, the Cardinals were horrible from 1988 through 1995. And a lot of, like, that one text messenger we said, they remember those days growing up with that. And it was pretty bad. You'd get excited about this or that. I thought Joe Torre did a good job at the 1993 team. He didn't have enough pitching. But Bill DeWitt came in here and completely elevated this franchise. And this franchise has been really, really successful. Even though it's become fashionable to loudly proclaim they haven't won anything. They've won a lot. They have won a lot. The problem, it's that performance has been in decline, and they haven't done anything to really reverse the trend. That's my problem with it. But Bill DeWitt has been a fantastic owner for this franchise overall. And listen, man, anybody who disputes that, even though you want to be mad at him now, go ahead. I am too, right? But let's not act like he didn't have a major, tremendous, enormously successful impact on this franchise. That's where I get off on this angry people thing. Hey, man, you hear me hollering, I get angry. But I can't stand it when you take it to the extreme. Like, what has that guy done except make money? Well, basically the franchise was in the toilet, and it was going to stay in the toilet, and he bought it and made it immediately better. And since 2000, I mean, only the New York Yankees have won more postseason games. And but again, recent years, they're striking out, and they got to fix it. But let's not act like, he's been a disaster or whatever it is these loons try to tell us. No, he's very disappointing in the current state. There's no question. Anyway, I'm probably talking too long.
It's fine. Another texter asked this question of you. So, Bernie, how much of this Bally's TV contract can we equate to the Cardinals not being aggressive?
Number one, I think it's been on Bill DeWitt's mind because he has said it, and Bill DeWitt the third, who I really respect and like a lot, and I think he's actually quite candid if people actually listen to him. Whenever he's on the show, I enjoy the conversations. But Bill DeWitt the third, freely acknowledged it's a problem and it's a concern, and we're not sure what's going to happen, and it's kind of he didn't say this exactly, but he basically said, this is kind of a worrisome time, and that has been on their mind. Now, however, Commissioner Big Mouth said at the All-Star break, in between taunting Oakland A's fans or whatever he's trying to do, that I'll get back to him in a minute, that Diamond Sports, which is the operating company for all the Bally Sports all the Bally Sports networks for baseball teams, hockey,
Right.
He said Diamond Sports has paid us 94% of the money they owe us for the rights fees this season. So the point being, it's been a point of concern. But I'm assuming if 94% of the revenue from television has been paid up by Diamond, that tells me that Bill DeWitt and the Cardinals have been paid up, if not entirely, close enough to where it shouldn't be a concern right now. Going forward might be a concern, but I think that's been on the back of his mind. I do. But the situation wasn't as dire as a lot of people thought. So don't ask me what it'll look like going into 2024. Maybe that's still in the back of Bill's mind. Plus, the Cardinals own a pretty big chunk of their own, part of Bally. Mm-hmm. And then it was Fox Sports Midwest. Part of the deal they made with them is they took on an ownership stake, and I don't know how much they've got poured into it. So, there's there are reasons for him to be concerned, but yet what I keep talking about, they still have For the first time, they're one of 16 teams in the majors, according to Cots Contracts, which has immense credibility. Cardinals have reached for the 40-man roster the first time a $200 million payroll. The problem is, and I know that all you listen to me regularly, man, I'm sorry because I repeat myself, but the point needs to be hammered home. The problem is, okay, he's worried. Let's say he's worried about money. Okay, he's going to shy away from these big, huge contracts. That's why they don't have a number one starting pitcher. Okay, that part's acknowledged. But I'm going to continue to kind of harp about the fact that they're still spending $200 million, but they haven't put a good enough team together. And you can win. You should win with a $200 million 40-man payroll. You're not impoverished. They make really bad decisions. They've traded away so many good young players. They've given money to people that have not come through. So I am respectful of any financial anxiety. I'm not going to do the thing where it's like, well, but everybody, these owners, they don't make money. I'm not going to do that thing. But I'm saying I'm respectful of, the fact that there could be a concern for the Cardinals. I'm respectful of it. I'm not throwing a pity party. But I don't think it's any factor whatsoever in this team's performance in 2023 because, again, they got a $200 million 40-man payroll. How are you 14 under 500? I know we talked about this briefly yesterday.
Got to be better, yeah.
There's a lot of big payroll teams that are not doing well. So the Cardinals are not alone, and this has been an interesting season in that concept that the big spenders have, not all of them, but a lot of them have been like, what the hell happened here? Why did I spend all this money? So that part of it does not get enough attention. And I'm going to be a nag because I'm going to bring it up a lot. Spend, DeWitt. All you care about is money. And if he has all he cares about is money, then why isn't he marching into Moselek's office? And we got a $200 million payroll. What's up with this garbage pitching staff? What am I spending money for? See, people never want to look at it that way. Yeah, you right?
Yeah, I think I got to imagine, Bernie, in the meetings, that's got to be said. It's just, look, hey, what are you guys evaluating here? I give you all these options, all this revenue, and this is what you put up. This is what you put out there. You guys aren't doing a very good job. You got to evaluate better.
Well, and the
you
other thing
teach them better, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, and the other thing that bothers me about this, and this is absolutely true, the Cardinals, even during some lean times, they've produced enough prospects where they could really go to Memphis and get help. Bring up a couple, three relievers that do a good job. Bring up a starter or two that can fill in and you go, hey, nice job. They don't have anything in Memphis that can help them. And I don't want to hear Mason win, because he's in a separate category. I'm talking mostly about pitching. They don't have a starter who's ready. They don't have a reliever that's worth a damn. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but there's nothing down there that excites them. The depth in the organization is abysmal. Again, you got a $200 million 40-man payroll, and, you have other revenue streams. And how can you not even have major league ready talent in reserve ready to go at AAA Memphis? There's no excuse for that, right?
I'm in agreement with you. We had a texter who asked the question, hey, where is the outside help for the bullpen where they've gone and gotten players from other organizations in the past? My question, I would say, is it's not there.
No, that became kind of one of those Cardinal specialties, but I think that's another classic example of the rest of the industry catching up on them catching up to them because – the Cardinals did have some secret sauce way of evaluating relievers because of Jeff Lunell's program that he put together and all the smart analytics guys that he brought in too. Because one of the questions, where do the Cardinals find these guys? Like the guy's ERA last year was 6.80. What the hell is this? What did they see in him that we missed? It's because they had a really good program. They could find these hidden gems that they could turn around and make better. They don't do that anymore.
The Brewers doing it.
Yeah, they do it. No, there are other teams that do it. I'm just
Right.
saying the Cardinals don't do it anymore.
Right.
Because they don't have the analytics edge, and they don't have anybody as smart as Lou now and the guys he had working for him in St. Louis. And the other teams, now the other teams find those guys. Milwaukee finds those guys. I could go, if I look at the list, which I'm not going to do, I could look at a lot of places. A lot of teams are finding these guys, where the Cardinals don't find them now. See, this thing has been a kind of a slow motion decline, but what's happened this year could have been avoidable, but it's also a continuation of the Cardinals letting their standards slip, and it finally caught up to them this season.
So true.
I tell you what, man, I can just talk.
You got going. The texters got going. Everybody got going.
Well, I like when the texters get going because, as we say in the broadcast industry, you know, the host has to be energized. Interaction with listeners is a great way to energize the host.
They're listening.
It's true. I'm silly because I'm so far behind the industry trends. I'd like to take phone calls, but that's kind of not a thing anymore in many places, you know?
Yeah.
And when I listen to a show that does take phone calls, let me tell you something. It doesn't take long before I go, well, yeah, it's probably not. It's probably not.
See,
a great
that's
idea.
just it. You go, oh, it's the same 4 callers. Yeah, we're done.
So, yeah, I mean, so I don't know what the answer is there, but I do love text messages, and you can really do the same thing. But I just like I like people listening to knowing that their voice matters, and you know we could do it better. And I'm talking about me, because if I asked Jim Hewer to do something, and you know for the show, okay, sure, you know, no, but it's not like anybody's blocking anything. But no, the phone calls are problematic. But I like the people that are like, oh, yeah, it's because you're afraid to talk. Who the hell am I afraid of? What? How long have I been in this town, like running my mouth? And what? I'm gonna cry if somebody's mean to me on the radio? I don't think so. What am I supposed to be afraid of? That's what I don't understand.
You speak your mind.
I know.